Soon, across Europe, a novel illness known as the Maze virus spreads, transforming people who contract it into ruthless zombies. Ireland is severely hit, even if the majority of the continent is able to suppress the spread. A remedy is eventually created by scientists, however it only benefits 75% of sick people. The medication has no effect on the remaining 25%. People who become better are referred to as the cured and are allowed to rejoin society. However, the resistant individuals who are still afflicted are imprisoned, and many call for their execution in order to stop another outbreak. Many people who have been healed suffer from severe PTSD because they still remember their time as zombies, particularly the horrifying things they did. One of the cured, Cinnamon, battles recurring memories of his past. He quickly heads to a mirror and is briefly comforted by the faint veins next to his eye, which are a telltale indicator that he has been cured. He was also checked on by his friend Connor, and they both concur that things will never really get back to normal. Senan later tells his rehabilitation officer, Sergeant Cantor, that he had nightmares and was infected for 4 years. This is encouraging to Cantor, who feels that those who are cured should never forget the pain they brought about. Then, Cantor tells Senan that he will be relocating to live with Abigail, his sister-in-law. Due to widespread fear and prejudice, the majority of cured are housed in government facilities, which is a surprising arrangement. On the bus, Sinan and Connor see a changed metropolis that is now teeming with military barracks and social disturbance. Outside the lodging facility, demonstrators assemble and chant anti-cured and murderous epithets. Connor gives Sinan a hug upon their arrival and counsels him to hide his background from Abigail. Journalist Abigail resides with her small son, Killian. During the outbreak, her husband, Luke, passed away. She gives Sinan a warm welcome and insists on supporting him because she believes it is what Luke would have wanted. When she asks about Luke's last moments, Sinan tells a falsehood, saying they were split up in the confusion that evening. Sinan, unable to sleep, muses over the circumstances surrounding his sickness. He remembers being in the city with Luke when the evacuation sirens went off. Despite his best efforts, Luke was unable to find his family. Sinan was suddenly ambushed from behind by a zombie. Luke used a tool to ward off the thing as he struggled to save him. However, it was too late. CNN had been attacked. CNN advised Luke to leave after discovering he was afflicted. Luke reluctantly locked the door behind him, leaving CNN to let the virus take over and let his anger run wild. Connor visits his father the next day in the hopes of getting assistance in locating a better career. He currently works as a janitor, but he hopes to go back to his previous profession as a lawyer, similar to before the outbreak. But in response to what happened to his mother, his father becomes disgusted and pushes Connor into a car while calling him a monster. Sinan, meantime, commutes to the treatment facility where he works on his old bicycle. Before allowing him to pass through the entryway, an officer examines his eyes to make sure he has been cured. Inside, he is given the task of seeing to Joe, a patient who is recalcitrant and has been strapped to a bed by Dr. Joan. Joan screams and thrashes as she tries to escape as soon as Joe spots her. Since she is just angry at Joan, Sinan is able to soothe her. Joan has the chance to provide an injection at this point. Later, she tells Sinan that because the cured still have infection leftovers in their cells, Joe identified him as one of her own. After that, Sinan remains with Joe, giving her a gentle bath and being sympathetic to her. Other parents discreetly condemn Abigail for letting a monster into her house when she goes to get Killian up from school. When Sinan later pays Connor a visit at the lodging facility, he discloses that the cured will not be harmed by the resistant. Connor starts to believe that interacting with the resistant could be safer than dealing with bigoted individuals. Cantor interrupts their talk to chastise Connor for missing work. When Connor claims that cleaning isn't his responsibility, Cantor tells him that everyone must adjust to the new circumstances. Because his family doesn't want him back in their lives, Cantor also prohibits Connor from getting in touch with them ever again. Connor becomes furious by this information and assaults Cantor. However, he is swiftly overcome by Cantor, who throws him to the ground and slams him against a table. When Cinnamon tries to step in, 2 armed guards hold him back. Sinan has a fantasy that night about attacking a child when he is a zombie. He discovers angry graffiti written on the front door when he wakes up. Joan is appalled to hear that the government has chosen to crush all opposition at the same moment. By the conclusion of the week, however, Connor goes up to Abigail and asks about his experience, introducing himself as CNN's friend Abigail, who has empathy for the cured. Connor talks of the excruciating need to kill and the agony of being imprisoned inside his body. Back at the rehab facility, continuing, Sinan assists Joan by taking care of Joe while she takes a rest. He watches as two troops enter the structure housing the resistance. He investigates after hearing growls coming from an adjacent cell and finds a soldier holding a female resistor as the other pees on her legs. Sinan attacks one of the troops out of hatred. However, he is swiftly overcome by the man and slammed into the wall. The resistance escapes and pursues the soldier down the corridor thanks to the distraction. However, she is shot dead by the other soldier. Sinan, heartbroken, sees her fall apart. As riot's intense fire raged through the streets, the soldier icily said that she was destined to perish nonetheless. Joan says she's close to creating a better remedy and is on the news promoting the rights of the resistance. The news host makes the case that executing the opposition is a humane method of defending civilization. As he watches, Connor pushes the authorities to act since the coward will be the next to be targeted. A gang of rebels identifying themselves as the Kurd Alliance are getting ready to strike back in a basement that Connor later shows Sinan. They prepare to target vacant homes and accumulate Molotov cocktails. On that particular night, the organization targets and burns soldiers' residences. Simultaneously, Abigail discovers that Sinan is not in his room when she is called awake by her supervisor regarding the flames. The following morning, the news reports on the Kurd Alliance's designation as a terrorist organization. When Sinan finds out that someone perished in the bombing, he is appalled. Anyone demonstrating in favor of healed writing is now arrested. Later on, Sinan still has memories in which he sees himself as a zombie. Luke attempted to argue with his brother after learning from a recollection that Connor was the one who infected Sinan. But at the same house, Sinan attacked Luke and killed him. At the doctor's office, Abigail now spends one afternoon there. A picture of Joan and Joe together is found by Sinan. They were indeed a couple, and created the remedy prior to Joe contracting the infection. Abigail asks Sinan, who goes out every night, if he has been going to Kurd Alliance meetings when he gets home. He disputes it, though. Then, in an attempt to console herself, she talks candidly about the anguish of returning home to discover her husband dead. Abigail and Killian are taken to a picturesque location outside of the city by Sinan. He reveals that as a kid, he and Luke frequently went there. When Abigail considers euthanizing the resistance to stop another epidemic, tensions increase during Connor's visit to Sinan's house that evening. Despite her belief that they weren't accountable for their zombie behavior, she supports Kurt's writing. Connor wonders if she might forgive her husband's killer after hearing her comment. After becoming agitated, Abigail departs. Sinan says he's leaving the partnership after confronting Connor about lying about the empty properties. The following day, Cantor pays Abigail a visit when Sinan is driving Killian to school, ostensibly to inquire about the well-being of the Kurt's families. Following a series of standard inquiries, Cantor shares his actual views, asserting that zombies are sentient beings who hunt in packs and coordinate their attacks. He asks Abigail to get in touch with him if she has any information, and he leaves her a secret file. She is startled to discover pictures of Sinan and Connor as zombies when she opens it. Later, in order to collect evidence, Abigail enters the lodging facility covertly through the rear entrance. She captures the breathing synchronization of 5 cured people standing in a circle. When one of them spots her, Abigail goes to a different floor where Connor is speaking to get more people to support his cause. Abigail is pushed against the wall by a woman who witnessed her. However, Connor steps in before things get out of hand. Abigail advises Connor to avoid her family and holds him accountable for the bombings. When Connor reiterates Carpenter's assertion that zombies hunt in packs, he grows skeptical because she shouldn't be aware of this. Abigail sees people pursuing her as she heads out, probably to get her camera back. She hides in a room that is empty and makes her getaway through a window. But she is grabbed by a man. She flees the lab after protecting herself by smashing the window on his hand. John learns that all of the level 1 resistance has been destroyed by the army. She walks over to speak with Joe after noticing him sitting up straight on the stretcher. Joan falls as Joe fights her when John tries to touch her. Soldiers hear the disturbance, tie Joe up with a rope, and declare she will be put to death. Joan begs them to give her more time, but they refuse. Joan and Connor have a covert meeting that evening. Abigail discovers fresh graffiti on the glass at home in the meanwhile. There is nobody there when she goes outside. Abruptly, a man in a mask enters and attacks. Before spray painting further graffiti on the walls, Sinan referred to him as cured filth with a bat. Sinan has hallucinations regarding Luke's passing while he lies hurt. After striking him once more and rendering him unconscious, the intruder leaves in the morning. After taking a quick look at the graffiti, the police explain that these kinds of crimes frequently occur in the houses of the cured. They are powerless without identifying information. When Sinan visits Connor, he acknowledges that he was correct to rejoin the Alliance in order to keep his family safe. Abigail, who believes someone from the Alliance is to blame, discovers the burglar swiped the memory card from her camera, which held video of the rebels meeting. Telling Cantor that Connor is planning something at the lodging facility, Abigail gets in touch with him. Joan surprises Sinan by showing up at an Alliance meeting. Sun is adamant that they not hurt the guards while they are organizing a rescue operation for Joe. As soldiers attack the building and brutally subdue anyone who resists, sounds suddenly break out. While Connor and the rebels escape, Street remains behind and is swiftly captured. Sinan doesn't say anything in spite of being questioned. Connor later accuses Sinan of killing Luke after he discovers Abigail and Killian at the park, exposing the wound Luke caused on his neck during their altercation. Cantor interrogates Sinan in the meantime, promising to safeguard his family, but Sinan refuses to participate due to a lack of proof. He's let out. A word from Connor regarding the upcoming meeting is delivered by a cured. Abigail demands the truth when Sinan gets home. When he admits to killing Luke, Abigail loses it and throws him out. When Sinan encounters Connor that evening, he tells him that he informed Abigail about Luke to warn Sinan that even those who appear to be good might turn on the cured. Sinan understands that Connor doesn't have nightmares. Just then, Cantor shows up with enough evidence to connect them to the bombings. When Sinan gives up, Connor kills Cantor by attacking him with a shattered bottle. Connor claims Sinan tipped him off and seizes Carpenter's gun. Sinan acknowledges that he wished to prevent Connor from hurting other people. Connor announces that the plan is already in motion as sirens approach, and the following day, he runs away dressed as a doctor. The treatment facility is infiltrated by the cured. They unlock Joe's cell and render the guards inoperable. However, one rebel also unlocks every cell. Despite Joan's objections, Sinan shows up and, because of the virus in him, passes through the resistance without getting hurt. As soldiers come and start shooting, he attacks the armed rebel. In the midst of the mayhem, the resistance manages to escape when a secret explosive detonates. Joe is still in her cell when Sinan discovers it and runs outside. Soldiers are attacked by zombies. Joan sits next to Joe after realizing she hasn't left, and the two converse for a moment until Joan gets bitten by a resistant. Abigail hears, armed with an axe, growling outside her house. Soldiers leave the area after she defends herself, and she is not allowed to pick up her son from school. When Sinan arrives at the school, Killian is hidden, and they make their getaway. Then, Connor shows up with a zombie that is aiming for Killian. He kills the undead and drives the youngster away. Connor assaults Sinan. However, soldiers wander, and Connor is hit by gunshots. Sinan puts protecting Killian, who is hidden beneath a car in the quarantine area, ahead of the opportunity. When Abigail challenges a guard, the cured force their way inside, causing havoc. At the rehab facility, Abigail uses a fallen soldier's gun to protect herself as she sneaks away and runs across zombies. When Joe sees Joan's body, he departs. Abigail meets up with Sinan and Killian at home. However, Killian is attacked and bitten by a zombie. Enraged, Sinan murders the zombie. Abigail contemplates taking her son's life, but Sinan assures her that he will be safe until a remedy is discovered. Abigail is left to grieve once he and Killian go. The news later states that although 8,000 zombies are still in captivity, order has returned. The streets are covered in posters depicting Connor, who has become a symbol of rebellion. Knowing that Sinan and Killian are among the infected survivors in the countryside, fighting for their lives, makes Abigail grin.